First, in this part of the video, we're going to look at the materials for the ANet reading fluency. So you're going to know how to access the materials in ANet and which materials need to be printed, such as the student passage and the materials that teachers and the assessment team will need for each student. You will also know how to complete the scoring documents, and you will also know how to access the Google form to input the student data. All right, so let's talk about accessing the materials in ANet. So you're going to go to My ANet. So you're going to go to your school. Notice your school is going to appear on the top left. And to access the reading fluency materials, and just a reminder, teachers have access to this, so they can print the materials. Anyone that has teacher level or school level will have access. So anyone at your school will have access to these materials. But to access the materials, you're going to go to right here where it says Assessments and Quizzes. You're going to click on Manage Assessments. So when you click on Manage Assessments, you're then going to get this page. It will default to English Language Arts, and then over here you have the Cross Network Online ELA 2223, and there's a drop-down menu. So right now it defaults to the Fall Interim, the Fall Assessment, Winter Assessment, Spring Assessment, and Summer Assessment. To get to the Fluency Assessment, you're going to use a drop-down menu, and you're going to click on Reading, Fluency, Diagnostic, Online, ELA 2223. Now, nothing appeared here, so I'm not sure. Let me see if I refresh what happens. Okay, so let's do it again. All right, so now it appeared. So I just went ahead and I just refreshed and it showed up. So here are the materials for Assessment 5. So Assessment 5 is the Reading Fluency Diagnostic, since we're in ELA right now. So when I click on this, you'll see right below that the course, 6th, 7th, 8th, because that's all Forest Middle has, and then the materials. And if you change to school, so let's say I go to elementary, and do the same thing, ELA, go to Reading Fluency, and then there are the materials for, in this case, the elementary school. Notice though, 3rd grade is there, but remember, Reading Fluency in EBR for this school year will be for grades using ANet, not Dibbles. I'm talking about ANet. ANet will be for grades 4 through 10. Okay, ANet Reading Fluency will be for grades 4 through 10. All right, so you have the grade level, course level here, and the materials. All right, so let me go back to, and you had the same thing for high school. So I'm going to go back to Forest Middle. So I'm going to go to Forest Middle. So it's right here. And I'm going to go to Reading Fluency and the materials. All right, so you see this right here where it has guidance for preparing to administer fluency or progress monitoring diagnostic assessment can be found here. This is important. So when I click on this, this is the same document that you saw in the previous video. So the one on the video discussing the implementation plan for the reading fluency. So that's that same document. This document's important, so it's important you go back and look at that video, because in this document is a video of a sample administration, and this video was shown in the previous video, a video within a video, and you're going to see it again either in this one or the next video that we do for the reading fluency. But notice it will say at least 1 week before administration begins, what do you do? All right, so that was in the previous. Make sure you go back and look at that previous video. 1 week before administration begins, Make sure you watch the video. And the scoring of the fluency assessment, remember the scoring of the fluency assessment could be done using a Google form. ANet provides a template spreadsheet, but you're not going to use that template spreadsheet this school year. Use it last year, not this school year. You're going to use the Google form, so that way all of the data from all the schools will be populated in one spreadsheet. All right, and then we talked about the virtual administration, which will basically be for EBR virtual. All right, so just a reminder, this little part here where it says guides for preparing to administer the fluency or progress monitoring diagnostic assessments can be found here is something you will use. Okay, so let's go to one of the materials. So when I click on, let's say, 7th grade ELA Fluency Diagnostic Scoring Sheet, when I click on that, it will open it up, or it will download it to the bottom left. So click on this PDF right here, and this is what you see. So in the materials, you're going to have, and let me go ahead and expand it. So in the materials, you're going to have, there are 3 bullets here. You're going to have the text for the student. You're going to have the administration directions for the teacher, and you're going to have the text and the scoring form for the teacher. All right, so 3 important information here. So when I go to text for the student, and that's basically what it is. That's the passage that you're going to give the student, that the student will read. Notice that some are 1 pages, some are 2 pages. This one is 2 pages. You do not need to print the text for the student, where it says text for the student. You do not need to print one for each individual student. You just need maybe one for each person doing the assessing, because all the student is going to do is to read from this passage. All right, so make sure you understand it is not necessary to print a passage for each student. You just need a set, so that way it could be used by the individuals doing the assessing with the student. All right. Okay, then let me go scroll down. So then you have the administration directions. Okay, so we're going to come back and look at that. And then remember the other part was the text and the scoring form for the teacher. So this is a one. So starting on this page right here where it says text and scoring form for the teacher, you're going to need to have one printed out for each student. You're going to list the student's name, the class name, and the date, and then the teacher will use for each student, and the teacher will mark on each of those for each individual student. So there's the text. It's important you print out one for every student that's going to be assessed. And then you have information on how to determine the comprehension. And then you have information on how to determine the accuracy scoring. You have information on porosity scoring. And you have information to determine the overall fluency rating. And there are examples here. All right, now for the overall fluency rating, only grades 4 through 8 will determine the overall fluency rating. Grades 9 and 10 will not determine the overall fluency rating. All right, so grades 4 through 8, you will determine the overall fluency rating for each individual student. Grades 9 and 10, you will not use this. And the reason you won't use this is because for high school, there's no percentile ranges for accuracy for high school. For high school, there are no percentile ranges for accuracy. All right. Now, you will still, for high school, so grades 4 through 8, you can do all of this. For high school, you're going to do most of this. So you're going to determine the comprehension. You're going to determine the arithmeticity. You're still going to do the arithmeticity, except you will not do the percentile range right here. Only grades 4 through 8 will be able to do the percentile range. You'll still be able to do the arithmeticity, but not the percentile range. High school, you'll be able to do the Porosity Scoring, and high school, you will not do the overall fluency rating. Okay? All right, now let's so we know the materials are. So that was this first bullet. All right, so the first bullet was how to determine or how to access the materials and what to print out. Okay, so now let's talk about how to complete the scoring documents. All right, so before you are even able to complete the scoring documents, make sure you understand the administration directions for the teacher or whoever is doing the reading fluency assessment. All right, so bullet number 1. Have each of the following materials ready: a hard copy text for the student to read, a hard copy text and scoring document that you, the teacher administrator, will use, a timer or stopwatch, and a pen or pencil for scoring. Second bullet, find a quiet area in which you can sit one-on-one with the student who is taking the diagnostic. Make sure it is an area in which the student can concentrate and will not be disrupted by excess noise or other disturbances. If you are administering the diagnostic virtually, so if you are virtual, if you're administering the diagnostic virtually by video conference or phone call, make sure the student has access to a hard copy or electronic version of the text and that you can hear each other well and will not be disruptive. Let me pull this up. All right, next one. Once the student is seated comfortably, read the following directions to the student. I will give you a text to read out loud for 2 minutes. Then you will have the opportunity to read the text again, either silently or out loud, and then I will ask you a couple of questions about what you have read. This is to help me plan for teaching this year. You will not get a grade for this. If administering virtually, say, I provided you a text earlier. You will read the text out loud for 2 minutes. Then you will have the opportunity to read the text again, either silently or out loud. And then I will ask you a couple of questions about what you have read. This is to help me plan for teaching this year. You will not get a grade for this. Ask the student if there are any questions, and once all questions have been answered, move on to the next direction. Give the student version of the text to the student and say, here is the text you will read. You can begin reading out loud to me when I say start. Read in your normal reading voice. If virtual, say, have the text in front of you. You can begin reading out loud to me when I say start. Read in your normal reading voice. All right, so then you're going to tell the student to start and start the timer when you do so. On the teacher version of the text, make a line through any word that the student reads incorrectly. Whether the student mispronounced a word, skipped, replaced with another word. So those are words that the student reads incorrectly. So you're going to make a line through those words. If the student corrects the mistake, note with a C above the word. Count this word as correct when scoring. Now remember, so the student corrects the mistake, corrects the word, you're going to put a C and it will be counted as correct, not an incorrect word. If the student stops at a word and does not continue after 3 seconds, tell the student the word and then instruct the student to continue reading. At exactly 2 minutes, stop the timer and make a note on the text where the student was when the time ended. If the student finishes before 2 minutes, note at the end of the text a time at which the student finished. For example, 107 seconds or 1 minute 47 seconds if the student finished in 1 minute 47 seconds. On the Google form, just to let you know, in the Google form, you're going to enter it as 107. You're not going to say 1 minute 47 seconds. You're just going to say 107. All right, and then you're going to tell the student, thank you. Now you can read the text again, either silently or out loud, so you can learn as much as you can from it. When you have finished, I'll ask you about the text. So this part, that last part here, is for comprehension. So that's what you're going to, that's going to be the part that you're going to determine comprehension from. All right, so then you're going to allow the student to read. When the student has finished reading, say, now I will ask you about what you just read. Please answer without looking back at the text. Then ask the following questions and note student responses on the scoring document. The purpose of this is to get a quick read on the student's understanding of the text. What do you remember about what you just read? What else do you remember? If a student is not responding, you can also ask, what was this text about? What else can you tell me about the text? And then once the student has shared all responses, collect the text back from the student and tell the student the exercise is complete and that the student can go back to class assignment, etc. And then you're going to complete the scoring section at the end of the text and scoring document. And you're going to reset the timer and call in the next student. Okay, in the next video, we're going to talk about completing the scoring section at the end of the text and scoring document. Well, what I want to do at this point is to go back to this part here where it says on the teacher version of the text, make a line through any word that the student reads correctly, such as mispronounced, skip, replace with another document. If the student corrects the mistake, note a C above the word. So here's what you're going to do. So let me kind of give you an example. I will pull this over. Let me go ahead and expand it. All right, so this is what you saw. So you're going to put the student's name here. You're going to put the class. Now make sure you put the grade level, because the grade level is going to be important, because there's nowhere on here is the grade level. And then the teacher of that student, and then the date that obviously the assessment was done. So notice here the little strikes. So incorrect word, another incorrect word, another incorrect word, but the student corrected it, right? So the student went back and actually corrected the mistake. So you put a C. So that's going to be considered correct. So incorrect, incorrect, correct. And then you keep going. So incorrect, made a mistake but corrected, incorrect, and so on. Now, at the end, let me kind of show you. So I'm going to go back, and so there's, all right. So notice the student read the whole text. So wherever the student stops, you're gonna put a bracket like this to indicate that that's where the student stopped. Then right under that, you can indicate the number of seconds it took the student to get to that point. So remember, the maximum is 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 120 seconds. So in this example, the student read the whole text in 100 seconds. So notice you can say 1 minute 40 seconds, or you can say 100 seconds. But on the Google form, and we'll do that in another video, on the Google form, you're going to say 100 seconds. All right, and in the other example, let me go to the other one. So the same thing. So this is student A, grade 7, teacher's name, and then the date. So you're going to, for every incorrect word, you're going to strike it out like you see, If the student makes a correction, you're going to put a C above it. And then at the end, so see this little bracket? So that's where the student stopped. So that's where the student stopped reading, and that was 120 seconds. So the student took 2 minutes to read up to this point here. So a bracket and then 120 seconds. Okay? All right, so that was this little part here. So on the teacher version of the text, make a line through any word that the student reads incorrectly, and then if the student corrects the mistake, note it with a C. All right. Then the other thing I wanted to mention is this. It's the one on the comprehension. All right, so you see that second bullet? When the student has finished reading, say, now I'll ask you about what you just read. Please answer without looking back at the text. Then ask the following questions and note the student responses on the scoring document. The purpose of this is to get a quick read on the student's understanding of the text. So you're going to say, what do you remember about what you just read? And then what else do you remember? It is very important that the student not be looking at the text for this part. So for the comprehension part, the student, when you ask those questions, the student responds, the student should not be looking at the passage. All right, so let me show you on the, let me get to it. So the comprehension part will be here. All right, so you see where it says comprehension? So you're going to say, what do you remember about what you just read? What else do you remember? If the student's not responding, you can ask, what was this text about? What else can you tell me about the text? All right, so you're going to enter the notes here. Now it's very important, like I mentioned earlier, that for each student, you print out these pages for each student so the teacher or the person doing the assessing can write down what the student is stating. This is also important because the literacy team and the literacy coach and the teacher will need all of this information to determine how to best help the student who is having fluency issues or comprehension issues. All right, and then once you do the comprehension, once the student states the responses to these questions, the teacher will enter it here, and then you're going to determine a comprehension rating. And then, so the comprehension rating of 1, the student has no recall or minimal recall of only a small number of unrelated facts of varied importance from the passage. 2, the student recalls the main idea of the passage with a few or some supporting details. A comprehension rating of 3, the student recalls and states the main idea along with a fairly robust set of supporting details presented in at least a somewhat logical or sequential order. A comprehension rating of 4, the student recall is a comprehensive summary of the passage presented in a logical order and or with a robust set of details and includes a statement of main idea. Student may also make reasonable connections beyond the text, such as to the student's own personal life or another text. So based on what the student's responses are with regards to those questions, the person doing the assessing will give a comprehension rating of a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and that's going to go into the Google form. And then notice the note, at the beginning of the year, it is not unusual for a student to be at level 2 or below for a grade level passage. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to show a sample administration of a teacher giving a reading fluency assessment to a student. And so that's going to cover the part on, so they're going to do the comprehension part where the student responds to questions, and then they're going to do the part where you're going to make a line through any word the student reads incorrectly, or if the student corrects a mistake, note it with a C. So let me show you where that video is. Make sure that all teachers or any person that's given the assessment looks at that video as well. So let me remind you where that is. So I'm going to go to the ANet Canvas course. I'm sorry, not the Canvas course, but ANet platform. And you're going to go to the scoring guide. So you're going to click on the scoring guide. So let's remind ourselves how to find this. So let's say you're a high school. So when I go to high school, you're going to go to Reading Fluency. You're going to go to Materials, and you're going to go to one of these scoring sheets. So let's say I'm going to use English 2. So when I go to English 2, remember it downloads it to the bottom left. You're going to open it up, and oops, sorry, one place. That is not where you find it. So the scoring guide is located here, excuse me, where it says Guides for Preparing to Administer the Fluency or Progress Monitoring Diagnostic Assessments can be found here. All right, so that's where you go. So let me click on this, and then right here, watch this video. So go ahead and play this video now. So please make sure that you're viewing how this administration is done. Now, in this video, the person doing the assessing and the student are side by side, and that's for video purposes. But in reality, what's probably going to happen is that you're going to be face to face with the student. All right, so let me click on the video, and we're going to go ahead and play it.
Hi, I'm Emma McCandless, and I'm a content specialist with ANet and ELA. And this is Teddy. Hi. He's in 2nd grade, and we are going to model administration of ANet's ELA Fluency Diagnostic today. So, you ready? I will give you a text to read out loud in 2 minutes. You will have the opportunity to read the text again, either silently or out loud, and then I will ask you a couple of questions about what you've read. This is to help me plan for teaching next year. You will not
So I don't notice, I'm sure you noticed that when the student made the error and corrected himself, he mentioned the word polar bears and he corrected himself with people. And notice the assessor went in and put a C over that word. All right, so remember, anytime you put a C over the word, it's counted as correct. So if the student corrects himself, it's considered a correct word. Okay, so that's where you're going to find the video. And let me see where we are on this part here. So we talked about access to materials, so you know where the materials are. And in the next video, we're going to actually look at more about how to complete the scoring documents. So we saw part of it. So part of it was how to strike through the two incorrect words, and if the student makes a correction, what to do there. We talked about the comprehension part. So you're going to have the student respond to these questions, and then the assessor will indicate the student responses here, and then the assessor will have to determine the comprehension rating. All right, now in the next video, we're going to go further with this. So in terms of acumaticity, so we're going to talk about acumaticity in the next video. We're going to talk about porosity scoring, and for grades 4 through 8, you're going to have to determine overall fluency based on comprehension, acumaticity, percentile ranges, and porosity. You're going to determine overall fluency rating for grades 4 through 8. For high school, grades 9 and 10, you will not determine overall fluency rating. And the reason for that is because in high school, there is no percentile ranges that are based on acumaticity. For high school, there are no percentile ranges based on acumaticity. You'll still be able to determine comprehension, you'll be able to determine porosity, and you will be able to determine the acumaticity in terms of words correct per minute, but not the percentile range. Okay? All right, so that's going to conclude the video for part 2 of the reading fluency implementation.